hope there are some friends here. Maybe we go on from where we left off yesterday. We were talking about conflict yesterday evening, and whether it's possible to live in this world, in modern world. I don't know if the word modern is really applicable, but as much we'll use that word. To live in this modern world without conflict. We went into that very carefully. And also, we talked about beauty. Beauty is not in the picture or in the tree or a description of a marvelous poem. Or any of the great statues and so on. We said where there is beauty, which is truth, there is no self, there is no self-interest whatsoever. We talked about it considerably. And also we went to the question of what is fear and whether it's possible to live our daily life without psychological fears at all. One doesn't know what you have thought about it, whether you have worked at it, or to find out for yourself whether it is possible to live without fear, which implies security. Is there security for human beings, both externally and psychologically? And we talked about that too. Security may be something most definite. It may not be found at all psychologically where there is this pursuit of self-interest, and therefore it brings corruption. We went into that too. Where there is self-interest, there must be corruption. Corruption is merely an expression of the self-interest, the bribes, black market, and all that, with which you are quite familiar, I'm sure. And also we talked about what you really want. What is your deep longing, craving? And can that craving, longing, wanting ever be satisfied? So we went into that too a little bit. So this evening, we ought to talk over together. I mean together. This is not to instruct you of anything or to inform you. But we are as two friends having a dialogue conversation. Can we together go into certain problems this evening, which is death, what it means in life, and love, religion, and meditation. We'll talk over together these questions. I hope you're prepared for a very serious talk, discussion, not merely agreeing or disagreeing as we went into that question yesterday. There is no disagreement when you see this microphone in front of you, unless we are blind or half blind and imagine it is something else which is not. Then that imagination or that attitude or that conviction brings about agreement or disagreement. When we are looking together at a fact, that which we call a tree is that's there. There is no disagreement about it. You might like it, you might not like it, but it is still a tree. So it's important in our lives to face facts and not fiddle about ideas, beliefs, faith, and all that business, but actually deal with what we have. That is our fears, our anxieties, our jealousies, our antagonism, a great deal of pretensions, hypocrisy, worshipping peace and killing another. There is that word in Latin which the Catholic hierarchy have been repeating for the last 2,000 years, pacem in terris, which means may there be peace on earth. And there has never been any peace on earth, because the very church, very temples, the mosques have created wars. Right? Whether you like it or not, it's a fact. And so we are going to talk over together what is death? Why human beings have been so frightened of it? Why human beings have really never understood deeply what the deep significance of death is? We can only understand it when there is no fear. Right? But most of us, I'm sorry about my voice, it'll get better as we go along. Most of us are afraid of death. And we separate living from death. Our daily life from death. One thing is absolutely certain, which is that we're all going to die. Right? Whether you like it or not, that's an absolute, irrevocable fact. You and the speaker are going to die one day, I hope. Not a few days, but many, many years later. So we ought to talk over together as two friends, not agreeing or disagreeing, but look at it all the living and the dying. What is living? What is it that we call living? Please, this is a discussion. This is a dialogue between you and the speaker. So, work it out. What do you call living? Is living this constant struggle, constant conflict, seeking power, status, position, and not be perhaps being able to get it, and living in constant battle with oneself. And the living is what we call anxiety, attachment, right? The living is going to the office, whether it is the highest ministers of this country or the lowest clerk, going to the office every day for 60 years or 50 years of your life, from 9 to 5, being insulted, pushed around, right? Unless you are the top executives. That's what we call also life. The responsibility of earning a livelihood with money to support your wife and children and educate them. And the education is pretty rotten, as it is in this country and elsewhere too. They are merely emphasizing, memorizing, right? And making them into machines. You're programming them to be mathematicians, to be engineers, to be scientists, right, and so on. They offer a means of livelihood, and so you spend 8 hours of the day for the rest of your life, and then retire to die. This is a fact. Seeking God, seeking peace, seeking some kind of shelter, some kind of way of living that is not so utterly shallow, empty. And this is what we call living. Is it a waste of life? We're asking each other this question. This way of living, with all the complications of that, always wanting more and more and more. And this is what we call living. Try to meditate and prepare for meditation, sitting in the right posture, breathing rightly, hoping to control your mind, your thoughts, playing with all that stuff. Right? And our bodies are being misused as our mind, as our brains. Have you watched your own bodies? That is, our bodies are an extraordinary instrument. Most intricate anatomically, how through long centuries of millennia upon millennia our bodies have been prepared through evolution, and is the most astonishing machine. And how we neglect it. And each one of us knows this, and we neglect it, we disregard it. We never take proper exercise, yoga. I must be careful of that word. You can get hooked to the word yoga and all the practices involved in it, and spend days and years being concerned with that, hoping to achieve some kind of... But exercise is necessary for the body. The speaker does it every morning for an hour. Yoga and other forms of exercise. And we don't know, we are accustomed to one kind of food and we stick to that. There's no, you understand all this, I don't have to. So our body, which is really, if you have gone into it, is the most amazing instrument. Like the brain. And through long usage, it wears itself out. And the organism dies. When we are 90, 50, through accident, through misuse, through old age, the body, the organism may last 100 or 110 years, but the organism comes to an end. That's what we call death. Then we ask ourselves, what is it that lives if I die? Right? Aren't you all asking that question? Yes? Marvelous question. We are all asking that question. We know the body goes. And our life may have been wasted. Have you ever asked yourselves whether you are wasting your life? Please ask it now and find out for yourself whether you are wasting it. Of course, you have to earn a livelihood, have a vocation, that's granted. But otherwise, are you wasting your life? Spending energy in things that don't matter. As we said the other day, our brains contain all memory. Our brain holds our consciousness. our consciousness makes up the content of our consciousness, makes the brain, makes consciousness. That is the content, which is our anxiety, our fears, our beliefs, our superstitions, our faith, our quarrels, jealousy, hate, fears, sorrow, and the search for truth, all that is part of our consciousness. Right? Clear? Your consciousness is what you are. Your consciousness is not separate from you. You are consciousness. Your feelings, your emotions. What's the matter? With your sentiments and so on. The whole of that consciousness is in turmoil, confusion, constantly changing, but it's limited. That consciousness is what you are. Right? This is a fact. Look at it. You don't have to accept what the speaker is saying. I'm sorry about my voice. That consciousness is me. Right? That consciousness is the self-interest. That consciousness is the ego, the personality, the characteristics, the tendencies. That is the whole content of our consciousness. Right? Its reactions and actions, its appreciations, depressions, loneliness and all that. And we say, is that the end of death? My consciousness dies too. Or will it continue? That's what you are interested in, right? No? Aren't you interested in continuity of yourself? Or you want to end it quickly? Surely we all want to think and long for a continuity. Otherwise you will never talk about reincarnation. Reincarnation implies that which you are now, not having all the opportunities, all the things, perhaps next life you will have it. A better house, more refrigerators, better cars, more power, or if you are religiously inclined, little more saintly, more moral, not so corrupt. But it's the same desire for continuity. Right? We all want to continue. We never questioned what it is to continue. You follow my question? We have never asked ourselves, what do I mean by continuity? everything is changing. Our cells, our blood, the cells in the brain are constantly dying, renovating. And what we mean by continuity is all the memories which we have collected, all the beliefs, all the experiences, the pain, the sorrow, the loneliness, the despair, all that we want it to continue. Because we want to continue the meal, right? Is the speaker saying that something false or true? Don't become suddenly silent. Everybody longs for this continuity, which is continuity as security. And if there is death, is that the end of everything? Right? Now, what do we mean by ending? Let's go and talk about it a little bit. Have we ever ended something voluntarily? Your anger, your jealousy, your aggression. Have you ever said, I'll end it? Not tomorrow, but now, completely end it. But our brains are conditioned to the idea of gradation, gradualness. Therefore, we never end anything. Right? For example, one is attached. Attached to an idea, to an experience, to some form of ideal. Aren't you? To some form of a concept which the thought has created, and we cling to that as security. So that we are attached to a house, to the family, to a name. And where there is attachment, there is anxiety. There is fear. There is jealousy. Insurance and mortgage. All the implications of attachment. And death says that's the end of it. Right? I may be attached to my wife, to my friend, to my family, and death comes along and says, it's over. Right? Now, and we want to remain attached all the time through next life. Right? I've lost my brother or my son, and I hope to meet him in next life. Right? Don't you feel all these things, or am I talking to myself about nothing? And there's a continuity in our life through attachment. Right? And to voluntarily say, I will end attachment. Have you ever done it? We're asking, and you're asking too, do we voluntarily ever give up anything? Not for a reward, for itself. And you don't see the beauty of ending something completely. So, ending has great significance. Right? Now the question is, why have we put death at the far end of one's life? Because we cling to what is known. Death is unknown. And we rather live with all the turmoil we have, all the misery, the confusion, and the longings. We rather have that which we call life, living, and avoid death as far as possible, right? At the end of everything. We are asking you as a friend, can you live with death while living? You understand my question? That is, when I die, not only the organism is cremated or buried or whatever that his friends do to him when he dies, and that is the end of everything. Though we may want a continuity next life, but that's the actuality of the end. Now, death means that, to end. Right? Can you live with death and together, life and death together? Have you ever asked that question? Will you ask it now as a friend? That to end attachment now, not when you die. Can you end your fear now, not when you are gone? So is it possible to live? This is a very serious question. Please do pay attention to it. I'm telling my friend. To live with that. Not commit suicide, I'm not talking about that. But living with death means ending everything every minute. All that you have accumulated as memory. Of course, you cannot leave your house because you have got to pay mortgage, insurance, and you have to have a shelter. You can't let that go, or your job. Then you will be unemployed and all the misery of it. Or you join a community or become a sannyasi, a monk, who has all, they also have their misery. So can I live every day with death? That means ending my experience every day. Only the memories of those experience and knowledge that there, physically they are necessary. Psychologically, can I end the memories? That is death. Death is going to tell us at the end of our life, boy, you can't carry your memories with you. So, to live with death all the time, it's a marvelous thing if you do it. This is not a reward. Because our memories are entirely in the brain, in the very cells of the brain. And memories which are the past is gone, dead. Memories are no meaning really. But yet we are full of memories, which is our knowledge. You understand? This is very important. Can you end knowledge today? Not the knowledge of doing carpentry and technological things, but the memories, the knowledge that you have carried. Can you? I'm asking my friend who is sitting beside me. I'm asking him. You have to have memories to do certain things in the physical world. Psychologically, don't carry a single memory. You understand? Not a single hurt. Not a word of hate or the feeling of hate or seeking power, position. Power is evil. Whether it's a political power or the power you have over your wife or husband. Any form of power or near power, being near a power is evil, ugly. And can you end all that psychologically? That means to live with death all the time. Does it mean anything to you? Or you'll always be afraid of death? This brings about another question. Death and love go together. Death is not memory. Love is not memory. Not pleasure. It's the ending of desire. The ending of thought, that's love. Therefore death and love go together. Do you understand all this? Have you ever inquired what love is? What is love to most of us? Do you love a tree? Do you love your wife, husband? Is love desire? Please, this is important. Go into it. Give your heart to find out. Because you have lost that quality in this country. When you talk about love, you become vacant. You don't know what it means. If you love your children, there'll be no war. So, we must inquire into what is love. Inquire, not intellectually, not analytically. The word inquire we use as watching, listening, observing. What is love? Is it put together by thought? You understand this? When you say, if you ever say, I love my wife, or I love you, what does it mean? Please ask yourself this question. Is it all the remembrance you have gathered about her or him? The sexual pleasures? The desires, the comfort? So we have to ask ourselves, what is desire? Which is a very complex thing. I don't know if we have time to go into this evening. And also, all the images, all the pictures we have built about each other. Is that all that love? Or love is something entirely different from desire, thought, memory. And without the beauty of love, which is truth, any amount of your meditation, reading, all searching and all the rest of it has no meaning. So, love is not jealousy, is it? Love is not hate. So can you put aside jealousy altogether? Envy about anybody, anything. Will you do it? Now, not tomorrow. Never be envious, which is to compare yourself with another. Can you end that comparison and that envy? If you cannot, there can be no love. If you are ambitious, seeking your own fulfillment, your own success, your own power, ambition, all that denies completely love. No? Will you end all that to find out what love is? You understand? Love is beauty. not the face and the painting and the pictures and all the contents of museums, ancient or modern. Which is, love is beauty. Love cannot exist where there is self-interest, the ego, selfishness. You may love God, which I question, because God is something born of your mind, brain. So, death is love. Ending is love. We ought to talk over together, conversation. What is religion? Now, I must finish this. Is your consciousness, I'll pursue this, is your consciousness different from another consciousness? Have you ever asked that question? If you have not, please ask it now. Is your consciousness, which is your beliefs, your turmoil, your pleasure, your faith, your anxiety, your uncertainty, that's your consciousness. Add more to it. Is that different from another? Except along the borders, right? Thrills. You may have more capacity than another, more skill and so on. Those are all thrills, tendencies, characteristics. But if you observe very carefully your own consciousness, which is what you are, your consciousness is like other people's consciousness. They go through what you are going through. Insecure, uncertain, confused, agreeing with certain politicians and disagreeing with others, corrupt. This is your consciousness of humanity, right? You don't have to believe what I'm saying. It is so, whether you like it or not. And that consciousness goes on, even our organism dies. You understand this? Because humanity, for the last 1,000,000 years, less or more, has carried this burden of sorrow, pain, innumerable desires with their fears and so on. So, when I die, the common consciousness of mankind goes on, which is your consciousness. Right? Look at it carefully, look at it objectively, not personally. You may be born in India with certain traditions, superstitions, having 1,000 gods or more, and the other, only one God, and the other having a greater culture, greater sophistication, greater this and that, and your consciousness is similar to his. So when I die, the consciousness of humanity, with all the pain and sorrow, goes on. You don't realize the seriousness of this. And unless there are some who step out of this consciousness, you understand? Unless there are some who are totally selfless, totally free of all conditioning, that consciousness will go on. And the few can step out of it, or many or all of you, you are contributing to something beyond this consciousness. We ought to talk over another serious matter, which is, what is religion? Why has mankind for over 1 million years sought something beyond himself? You understand? All new cultures are based on religion. It's a historical fact. And all our cultures modern day is nothing but money, noise, violence, brutality, power. Whether in the temples, mosques or churches, with their hierarchy, their rituals. That's not religion, is it? Ask that question, sirs. Is that religion? Repeating day after day mantras, repeating day after day puja, going to temples, offering incalculable amount of money. Look at all the churches, how they're being built, the great cathedrals. Probably you have not seen some of the most beautiful cathedrals in the world. All in the name of God, in the name of somebody. In the Western world, it is the Savior. And the Eastern world, you know better than I do. And that's what's called religion. The origin, the etymological root of that word has not been established. We looked up in serious dictionaries, and it's not been established. If we can put aside all the attempts made by man to find God or something beyond God, and the priests who come in between us to interpret God, to show us the light, including the gurus. If you put all that aside, what is religion? You understand? Is religion put together by thought for one's comfort, for one's psychological safety, knowing that thought is limited, as a knowledge is limited. Thought is born out of memory. Memory is knowledge. Knowledge comes out of experience. The whole process of thought is always limited. It can imagine the immeasurable, but it's still limited because it can imagine it. It can project eternity, but it's still the projector is limited. So, what is religion? What is it that man, you, and the speaker have said? What is it? Is there something more than mere knowledge? Right? You understand my question? Somebody else. Do you understand my question? We have knowledge about so many things. How to go to the moon, how to kill 1 million people with one blow, how to communicate with each other, miles apart, thousands of miles apart, so rapidly. All the great surgery, and it's all born out of knowledge. And is knowledge religion? Psychological knowledge? Or the ending of psychological knowledge? You understand? The ending of it, not the perpetuation of it. That means, can the brain be free of knowledge? Not worldly knowledge. Please, we must be very careful here to understand this. You need knowledge to drive a car, to write a letter, to telephone, to go to your business. You need knowledge to recognize your wife. And to beat her or quarrel with her, you need knowledge. Or her quarreling with you or beat you up. It generally, very rarely happens. A woman beats a man up. I wish it would happen. So, I'm asking, is the accumulation of knowledge psychologically, you understand? Will that bring about an understanding or coming to that great state of sacredness? Right? Because man has sought something beyond all this. And the search is apparently through meditation. Right? Can we talk about meditation a little bit? The word meditation means to ponder over, to think over. I'll meditate about my problem. And also that word means to measure. Right? I believe in Sanskrit too it means ma is to measure. Correct me if I'm wrong. So meditation has now become a thing that you practice. You follow a system, a method. Do part of yoga as a part of meditation. Is that meditation? The preparation and meditation. You understand? The preparing oneself through a system, through yoga, through repeating mantras, resting 20 minutes a day in the morning, 20 minutes in the afternoon, and 20 minutes in the evening, having a nice siesta or rest or whatever it is, and practice that day after day. Is that meditation? Most of us meditate deliberately, consciously, right? Practicing consciously in order to meditate, or practice, follow, obey a pattern. And then you will learn what it is to be aware. There are lots of people following somebody who will teach you how to be aware. It all sounds such rot. So what is meditation? It's a very interesting question, because conscious meditation, a deliberate process to sit properly, breathe, and all that business, consciously, deliberately meditate, is no meditation. It's like consciously working to become an executive, consciously trying to become a millionaire, having plenty of money. It's the same. You want a result. You want peace of mind, silence. Right? Now, what is silence? Is it separate from sound? Have you inquired into sound? What is sound? There's sound inside your body all the time. The blood going through the veins. They have put a camera inside the brain, inside the body. You must have seen some of those television pictures. How there's pumping on. That's noise. That's sound. How when the heart is beating, that's sound. You can hear on a heart beating. That's sound. Right? And the sound of a tree. Not when the breezes are dancing with the leaves, not when there is great wind sweeping through it, but when the tree is very still, without single leaf moving. There's a sound in there. And we create sound all around us. Right? Next door, for the last month or another month or whatever the period they have, there's a noise going on. That's sound. Sound of a voice. The sound of music. You understand? There is sound. Why do we separate sound from silence? Because that's what you want. Silent, peaceful mind, brain. And to achieve that, you practice. Hoping by controlling thought, gradually or eventually or in a year or two, you will have complete control of your thoughts, your feelings, You never asked who is the controller. Right? Or will you ask that question? I want to control my thought, because thought is all the time chasing it, every restless, moving from one thing to another. And I want to concentrate. I want to fix my energy in on that page or on that ledger. How to make it crooked for the government or the taxpayer. I want to concentrate. And I try to focus my brain on that. Then thought comes along and says, look, and goes off, distraction. So there is concentration and distraction, right? Why do you call it distraction? Is there such thing as distraction? God, find all these things out. I want to concentrate on that page, but my thought goes off to something else. I pull it back and say, for God's sake, concentrate. Because it will get you money, it will give you a position, and it will give you sense of vitality, energy. And that urge is similar to earning money. They're not much different between concentration, wanting to achieve an aim, and the concentration you spend on earning a lot of money or power, position. If you're a good talker, as they do in this country, you worship a talker. And anything that distracts your thought, you call that distraction. Is there such thing as distraction at all? Please inquire into it. Distraction implies a moving away from what you should do or you want to do. You want to concentrate, you want to do, and there is distraction. Isn't your wanting another form of distraction? Right? Inquire into it. Isn't your whole life a form of distraction? No? Don't look at me as though you're puzzled. Everything becomes a distraction. When there is no love, when there is no certainty, right? I'll go into it if you will follow this little bit. To the speaker, there is no distraction. To him, everything is a distraction. See why? Endless talking about politics, endless reading newspapers and quoting what you follow. Isn't that a distraction? Chatting, gossiping. Isn't that a wastage of energy? Isn't that a distraction? So, any form of wastage of energy is a distraction. Therefore, we have to inquire, is there no wastage of energy at all? You people don't go into all this. Do we waste our energy? In many, many ways, don't we? And when you want to concentrate, it's a form of resistance, right? You build a wall around yourself and say, I must look at this carefully. Isn't that a wastage of energy? This battle. Wanting to concentrate, wanting to control, wanting to have power. Isn't that a wastage of energy? Holding on to your position next to the most important person. I heard a lovely story the other day. Somebody shook hands with the Queen. And the lady next to that person said to the lady with the person who shook hands with the Queen, may I shake your hand? You follow, sir? Listen to all this and find out for yourself why we call anything a distraction. All the conflicts are a distraction, aren't they? All your jealousies are distractions. That's a waste of your energy, being jealous. No? Hating somebody, being envious of somebody. So our life, the living, is a waste of its energy. The way we are living. And if we end that way of living, there is no distraction whatever. Then you are living. So we must go back to the question, what is meditation? It is very easy to mesmerize oneself, right? To say to oneself, I'm achieving. I'm getting nearer to enlightenment. The question arises, can there be silence which is part of sound? What we call silence is the ending of sound, right? The sound being thought, sound being knowledge, right? You have that silence without any disturbance, right? And in that silence, come upon something extraordinary, tremendous experience of enlightenment, or of great insight into the universe. Right? Isn't that silence related to sound? Or is sound different from silence? Or sound is silence? Sir, have you listened to sound? Not resist it. Not say it's ugly sound. I don't. Sound. An aeroplane passing overhead, thundering. It's a tremendous noise. Sound. Lightning. Right? We are noisy. And therefore we are seeking silence. You understand? So we have separated sound, noise from silence. As we have separated death from living. You understand what I'm saying? So our brain, our thought rather, is separating all the time. You understand? It is the nature of thought to separate. Nationally, religiously, you and I, the most learned, not ignorant, is the activity of thought which is in itself limited. Therefore, whatever it does will be limited, will be separated. Jew, Arab, Muslim and Hindu, communist, socialist, you follow? All that implies a constant division. So we have separated silence from sound. Right, you get it? If you don't separate, which is not seek silence as away from sound, then sound is part of silence. I wanted to see this. Do you see this? See, when you seek out silence, you are creating disorder. And that disorder you call silence. Order is born out of, it comes into being when disorder ends, right? To find out disorder first, not seek order. Why we are in, our lives are in disorder. And to go into it, find out, wipe it, and so on. When there is that comprehension completely of disorder, there is naturally order. Now when you don't separate sound from silence, there is order, complete order. Like the universe is everlastingly in order. Sun rising, sun setting, the stars, the beauty of a new moon, the full moon. The whole universe is in order. It's only the human beings are in disorder. Because they've lost their relationship with nature. They have no beauty, you won't say. So, the end of the matter is when there is no self, self-centeredness. There is something which is totally orderly, and that order is silence and sound, and then there is that thing that man has sought, which is timeless. Unless you do this, all that's verbal nonsense. Unless you put your mind and heart to understand your own life, why you live this way, why you have to go to the office day after day, why you have to quarrel with your wife and husband, jealousy, all that destroys love. And without love there is no order. And where there is love, there is compassion. And where there is compassion, there is supreme intelligence. Not the artificial intelligence of a computer, nor the artificial intelligence or powerful intelligence of thought. But when there is that quality of the brain which has understood the whole business of conditioning and is free, and silence is part of that enormous sound of the universe, and where is the end of sorrow, there is passion. And compassion is that passion, and is that intelligence. Then beyond that, there is total nothingness. We will get it.